Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some r/my butthole. And if you love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's dive straight into today's first story. And today's first story comes from Footing Bills 321, who asks, am I the arsehole for only paying for myself when my fiance and future in-laws invited me to a New Year's Eve dinner at an upscale restaurant? I, female 32, just got engaged to my fiance, male 37, Sam. We do not live together because we're waiting till marriage, given he and his family are highly conservative Christians, and they are really nice and lovable people. I had plans to spend New Year's Eve with Sam, but he said he was out for New Year's Eve dinner celebration with his parents, then called me again inviting me to join them, and I happily did. His parents were there. They welcomed me and ordered many dishes and desserts and drinks. We celebrated and had a great time. That is, until it was time to pay. I pulled my wallet out of my bag, letting them know that we'll split the check between us. Sam mumbled, "No, you don't have to, we invited you." But I insisted. He and his parents then stared at me. I asked what was wrong and both mother-in-law and father-in-law said they didn't have money on them. I was shocked. I turned to Sam and he said he too forgot his wallet at home and didn't bring enough money to cover even on a round of drinks. His dad then laughed nervously. "Alright, so I guess we should let the doctor pay." I was taken back. I said, "I'm sorry, but no, this is just so much money to spend on one dinner by myself, and I didn't think I was expected to pay the entire bill." Sam said I should pay and he'd pay me back later, but I said no, since I know he will have to get a job to pay that much money. I said, "I'm sorry, but this isn't the first time I've been put in this situation by him and family, where I'm expected to rescue them after they somehow forgot their wallet, and expect others to pay hundreds for their extravagant dinner." I told them I'll only pay for what I had and that's it. He and his parents were shocked. They started arguing about how I have the potential to pay right there and then, but I was acting as if they were strangers, not family. But that doesn't mean I'm obligated to pay. How could someone go out to a fancy restaurant, order so many dishes, desserts and drinks without bringing money? Sam begged that I just do it and call it a night, but I refused. The argument got heated, then I got up and walked out. Sam called later at 2 AM, basically yelling that I ruined the New Year's Eve celebration and made his parents suffer because I refused to pay the entire bill and instead acted selfishly, and paid only for myself after they were gracious enough to invite me. I told him how unfair it was for me to pay. Even if I have a good salary, doesn't mean I want to spend it all on a fancy dinner. He didn't reply and he just said that he'd pray that my parents will let this go and not resent me after I basically damaged the relationship with them. I felt awful, thinking I should have covered the bill instead of leaving. Am I the arsehole? Holy moly, not the arsehole in this situation. How could you ever be the arsehole in this situation? That they expected you to pay when they, all three of them, three people, conveniently forget to take money with them at all. It almost sounds like there was a phone call in the background at some point, you know, when Sam initially told you he was going to New Year's Eve and then there was a period of time in between it before he invited you that they were on the phone together and said, "You know what, the doctor can pay for this, she's good for a bit of money, you know what I mean? Invite her and she'll cover the bill, no one take your wallets." Or it could be, and it's because I've read so many Reddit stories now, wild things jump in my head, that, you know, it's some sort of test, you know, where the family tests the new partner and they said, "We can test if she's trustworthy, if she's worthy to be part of our family, that she can pay the bill." And I gotta say, if I was in your shoes, if I was put in your shoes and a family put me on the spot like that, my partner and their family put me on the spot like that, there was no way I would go out with them people again. And he has the bloody cheek to say to you that he will pray that they don't resent you after that. Screw these people, man. You deserve better. But OK Bullfrog 7875 says not the arsehole. They all conveniently left their wallets at home. It doesn't seem likely they forgot them at all, and they invited you with the expectation that you'll pay. You should rethink marrying this guy. He expected you to pay for an expensive meal without your knowledge, and you've been put in this situation before by him. It seems he's using you for money, and that's extended to his family. They ruined their own New Year's Eve by trying to force someone else to pay for a meal they cannot afford. OP replies saying absolutely, and father-in-law's comment about letting the doctor pay was the biggest tell for me, though this wasn't the first time I was put in this situation. Good Girls Grace replies that saying 100% don't marry this guy. He doesn't have a job. It doesn't seem like a stay-at-home parent arrangement is in place, so he's essentially leeching off OP. Intentionally, it seems. They weren't gracious enough to invite you. If you invited someone out to dinner, you pay. The invite is nothing more than a calculated attempt to get a free meal out of OP. The fact that Fiance didn't stand up for OP and even supported their comments raises a lot of flags. This is not the first time they tried to take advantage of OP financially. It seems like Sam is also in it with his parents, because no one leaves their wallets at home that conveniently. OP, you need to seriously rethink the marriage and this relationship in general. His parents are not nice and lovable to you. They're nice to your wallet, and your future husband, hopefully not for long, are the same. You're in it for the marriage, he's in it for the money. Stoke King says, lol, well, you have to admire their nerve. He'll pray that my parents will let this go. And I'm praying you let his parents go, for fuck's sake, not the arsehole. OP replies saying, yeah, that comment got me and made me feel horrible, especially because his parents and I have always been on good terms. I'm Stealing the Towel says, not the arsehole, and quote, Sam called later at 2 AM basically yelling that I ruined the New Year's Eve celebration and made his parents suffer because I refused to pay the entire bill and instead acted selfishly and paid only for myself after they were gracious enough to invite me. Then goes on to say, I was what the fucking throughout most of your OP, but this is where my jaw hit the floor and made off for the sunset. It's so painfully obvious that your future husband and in-laws are using you for your money. They weren't being gracious to invite you. It was calculated move so that you'd end up in a position to pick up the entire bill, and your husband should be mortified that they did this. Instead, he's backing his parents up and manipulating you into thinking that you should have rolled over and paid. You need to rethink this marriage. This isn't the first and it won't be the last time you'll be put in this position, and it's clear that your husband will always be on the side of his supposedly nice and lovable parents, while they all take advantage of you. Is this what you want the rest of your life to look like? Ninja Baba Mama says, not the arsehole. Sounds like you were invited just to pay the bill. Red flag. And one more from Artistic Bookkeeper who says, not the arsehole. This was a setup and good for you for refusing to go along with it. I would rethink this marriage since your fiancé and his parents want you to be the family cash cow. If this has happened before, they should have been extra careful not to forget their wallets again, and calling you the doctor was very telling. And why doesn't a 37-year-old man have enough money to pay a restaurant bill? Now, what do you guys make of this one? It has to be a not the arsehole, but what would you advise OP? Would you put yourself in OP's shoes? Would you want to be a part of that family? Would you marry into that family? Big questions, but I think a simple answer. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and we'll move on to another story. And our next story comes from Driving Tradition, who says, am I the arsehole for telling my daughter that I will never let her drive me anywhere in her life? We have a tradition in our family that whenever one of our children pass their driving exam, we all go out and eat together at their favourite restaurant to celebrate. I taught all my daughters, 18, 17, and currently my two 15-year-olds, how to drive, but my 16-year-old wouldn't let me. She said that her friend was learning with a driving instructor, and she wanted to do that too. No problem. I asked her to let me teach her the basics then, but she said she wanted to learn at the same pace as her friend. I offered to teach the friends the basics too. But then my daughter just outright said, no dad, no, I don't want you to teach me. It's not cool, okay? And I want to learn on my own. I said, you are learning on your own. I'm just going to teach you the basics and that's it. She said she didn't want to talk about it anymore, and the final answer was no. Part of her driving permit requirement was that she drive a certain amount of practice hours, but she was only allowed to drive with a parent or driving instructor in the car. She would never drive with me in the car, so she got all her practice hours with her driving instructor and by driving my wife around. I complained to my wife and asked her what the heck was going on, and she just kept saying that our daughter was trying to be independent and impress me by doing it on her own. Finally, our daughter took her driving license. She passed and we went out to celebrate. She was supposed to drive the entire family to the restaurant, but I refused to get in. I went into one car while she drove her mum and sisters in the other. I usually give the toast, but I refused, saying that maybe the driving instructor should have been to give it. Oh God. My wife said, "Oh my gosh, this is so childish. You two need to talk about this right now and clear the air." I said I need an explanation for why my own daughter was so against me teaching her to drive, or just being in the car with her while she was learning. She said it wasn't personal, I just wanted to learn how to drive on my own and with my friend, that's it. Even my other daughters said, yeah, but you could have at least let dad teach you one time. But she said that she was going to at one point, but then she felt pressured by everyone trying to push her into doing it, that she just rebelled against the whole idea. I said, well, what's done is done, and you don't ever have to worry about driving me around because I will never in your life let you drive me anywhere. I will never get in a car with you if you're behind the wheel. It got silent and the atmosphere was thick after that. My wife kept frowning at me, then after a while I got up and said, I'm going to go, I need to clear my head. Edit. To clarify, the part I'm most upset about is not even that she didn't let me teach her how to drive, but that she didn't even let me ride in the car with her one single time during the time she needed practice hours. I'm a great driving instructor. I taught my 18-year-old and 17-year-old how to drive and they both passed on their first time. I'm teaching my 15-year-old daughters right now. I don't yell and I'm very patient because I know how stressing it can be, and I work with all styles. My 18-year-old was an extremely cautious driver, my 17-year-old was a speeder, and with the twins right now, one of them is an impatient driver. She cuts people off all the time and the other is the most patient driver ever. She lets everybody cut her. Also, people are saying that I should have just told my daughter how I felt. I did. I couldn't include everything because I didn't go over the limit, but I did go to her and say, you know, it kind of bothers me that you won't even let me be in the car when you drive. She said she didn't want me there because I might start giving her tips here and there, and she considered that as me teaching her. I promised her I wouldn't, and I don't make promises lightly, but she still said no. This was before I complained to my wife, so I did try to talk to her. Edits. The issue is not that she wouldn't let me teach her how to drive, it was that she didn't want me in the car one time, and even after I tried to reach out to her. If your dad said to you, hey, it's kind of bothering me that you didn't want me to teach you, but if you want to learn on your own, that's fine. But can I just ride in the car with you one time to see how you're coming along? I promise I won't say anything during the ride or even ask to ride with you again after that. You wouldn't let him ride with you one time. And I can honestly say, no, if I felt that way about it, I certainly wouldn't, because you're getting in the car to judge that person. So I know I'm going to be sitting there thinking about what is that person thinking, which is going to put me off my driving. And I can say, growing up, my dad was a fantastic driver. He was a great driver and he was a very patient person and all this kind of thing. And he did take me out when I got my first car and when I had my L plates and I was learning all that sort of stuff. And he took me around a certain way on how to drive, but he didn't teach me specific details that I needed to know to be able to pass my test. He didn't teach me that you need to be like, how frequently to check your mirrors. My driving instructor said, I don't know if it was just for the benefit of the person judging you when you're doing your test, but to be checking it every so often, check your left mirror, right mirror, and the central mirror as well. My dad didn't teach me not to cross your hands when doing the steering wheel, so I was crossing my hands when I first went with my instructor. So eventually, yes, as I just said, I did get an instructor and I learned to pass my test that way. Took me 2 tries, by the way. But this post, it just had me questioning, who is the adult in this situation? You know, you wouldn't get in the car with your daughter, you threw a tantrum at the restaurant. I was like, ugh, come on, man. I found it quite sad that you couldn't just respect your daughter's decisions, you know, want to learn by herself and not be proud of that fact. I can honestly say if I had a child and they went on to want to get an instructor to do better for themselves, I'd be just proud of that aspect. So it's incredibly sad, the situation in some ways as well. Especially what you said to your daughter, that you never let her drive you anywhere in your life because of your own insecurity in some ways. Yes, you're the arsehole to me. But CK1277 says you're the arsehole. She didn't want to learn from you, so you're retaliating against her, which goes a long way to explaining why she didn't want to learn from you. Good point. No Confidence 5235 says, considering the way you threw a tantrum about this whole thing and made the whole celebration about you, it's no wonder your daughter didn't want to drive with you. Get over yourself, arsehole. You're the arsehole. Where is the TV changer says you're the arsehole. It's just petty. You're the dad and you're acting like the teen here. I get that your feelings are hurt, but I think you're going about this in such a wrong way. Lunchbox replies that saying yeah, and he might be a great driving instructor, who knows, but it's totally besides the point. Of course, it's a weird hill for the daughter to die on, but she's 16, and my guess, based on Dad's reaction and post, is that he is smothering and controlling, and she is striving for independence from him. Instead of just accepting that and swallowing some disappointment, he's totally blown up over it. Although I guess if he was the kind of guy who would gracefully accept this, she would have been happy to learn from him. Also, he got to teach 4 other kids. Christ alive, man, why are you so obsessed with teaching driving? And Tattooed Hepburn says, you're the arsehole, geez. After reading this, I wonder why your daughter didn't want your help. So there we have it. It's a pretty unanimous you're the arsehole for the way OP is acting. And it sort of made me reflect on an older post as well, where a father was pushing their daughter to do something and the daughter was retaliating against it and didn't want to do it, and the father eventually forced them. And it made the daughter basically stop asking for help from their father whenever they needed anything. And is that the relationship you want with your daughter? Not saying this is the case, but it just made me reflect on that post. Now, what's your thoughts on this one? What would you advise to OP in this situation? Is there a way they can make this up to regain? I guess there may be some trust lost here. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and we'll move on to another story. And our next story comes from a Liz, who says, am I the arsehole for insisting my boyfriend eat respectfully at a nice restaurant? So my boyfriend 20 male, L, and I 20 female have been dating for 7 months. We usually eat takeout if we want to get something to eat. However, I recently was promoted, so we went to eat at a very nice Italian restaurant to celebrate. Like one with an enforced dress code. Ooh, someone's doing well. My boyfriend is not the nicest of eaters, which can be kind of gross, but I deal with it. However, I didn't realize he had no table manners. At the restaurant, after we were served our first appetizer, a beautifully plated bruschetta dish, Elle looked at me and jokingly asked if I'd be upset if he enjoyed his meal the same way he would at home. I told him that we were at a nice restaurant and there were other customers around. He didn't say anything, but instead started digging into the bruschetta with his hands, ignoring the serving fork, getting sauce all over his fingers. I let this go. However, when the pasta came out, he smirked at me and ate like he hadn't eaten in a week. He dropped his fork and started picking up pieces of chicken and noodles with his fingers, getting sauce everywhere. The tablecloth, his hands, his clothes, and his face. He didn't miss the opportunity to loudly burp after he had finished destroying his side of the table. The table next to us was astonished. My waiter even asked him if he was okay. Other customers were staring. He also put his feet up on the chair next to us, blocking the aisle. I had no idea what to do. I didn't want to make even more of a scene, so I just asked for the check, which I paid, and left really embarrassed. On the way home, I told him how embarrassed I was, and he said that it was my fault for not letting him enjoy the meal as he pleased, and that since we were paying customers, the other guests had no business judging us. Am I the arsehole? Wowee, where do we go with that one? Firstly, absolutely not the arsehole in the slightest. I'm trying to picture the scene, being sat at a table with this guy opposite me, and he's digging his hands in. And I can kind of imagine in a home situation, if you wanted to eat bruschetta with your fingers like a toasted bit or something like that, maybe. But even pasta, eating pasta, if you was in a home scenario, putting your fingers in pasta to eat it, what the fuck? And he does this at a restaurant with an enforced dress code. Come on, he's doing this for a reason, to be assertive or something like that, and people can't judge me because I'm a paying customer, and puts his feet up on the chair. He's acting disgustingly to show his dominance or something like that, and yeah. And I can honestly say I wouldn't want to go out to eat with someone like that again if they're going to act in that way. Absolutely not. I have a bit of a thing in my head for people like that, and I can't eat with people like that. There was a time when I was with a friend and I was around their apartment, and they had a roommate, and their roommate came in. We was watching TV. I can't remember what was watching on TV, but their friend, because I was just so blown away by this, like loud eaters, I can't deal with it in my head. That's likely a me problem here. But this person went to the local shop and they brought like a tray of profiteroles, like that, stacked in a little triangle. And they came in, sat on the sofa, like with their back against the sofa between us, and they started eating these profiteroles, and the mouth slapping was so loud. I could feel myself shake every time I heard it. Gone off one a little bit there, but Memories coming out. But Sin Elvis says, not the arsehole, and quotes, he smirked at me, and then says, he smirked at you. Dude knows exactly what he's doing and took pleasure in publicly embarrassing you. Auntie Irma says, this hero P, a man who enjoys humiliating you is going to escalate in abusing you, and quickly too. He just told you who he is, dump him and bail like any sane person would. Edits, a book suggestion. This is a PDF you can read on your phone or your computer. It gets into why of how the situation is concerning and why I'm concerned for OP. And there's the link if you'd like to look at it yourself. Sleepy Feline says, not the arsehole. Your boyfriend behaved like a toddler. The fact that he smirked before doing it suggests he knew exactly what he was doing and that he was trying to embarrass you. Username 52 says, not the arsehole. This isn't like he used the wrong fork or made a bit of a mess failing with oysters or lobster. He was intentionally being disgusting because he wanted to make a statement. I'm too cool for a fancy restaurant. Bunny Biscuit says, please, for the love of God, let that be the last meal you eat with this man, not the arsehole. Involuntary Cynic says, not the arsehole. This is the human equivalent of a pet looking at you in the eye while they piss on your favorite cushion. It's not lack of knowledge of how to behave on his part, it was a deliberate act of dominance. Take this as the warning sign it is. Your future successes and happiness will be treated the same way. Don't waste any more time on this a-hole. And one more from Positive Intern 2275 who says, not the arsehole. He ruined something you wanted to do. You are both 20. Does he wipe his ass as well, or is he only a messy eater? I feel like he might be trying to shoot down your hopes for enjoying yourself and make you feel guilty for the things you do and pay for. It will only escalate from here if you don't nip it in the bud. The behavior, in my opinion. Although, also in my opinion, you're not his mum and it's not your job to teach him how to behave like his own mother should have many years ago. Message his mum for advice detailing everything you did for us and see what she says, or literally any other adult who would at least feel ashamed of themselves for making such a fool of themselves. Now, what do you guys make of this one? What would you do in that situation? Oh, I find it hard to picture that. Just sends me over the edge. Gives me shivers. Now, what do you guys make of today's collections of stories? As always, I would love to hear them if you have a moment of your time to share them. A huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved on the daily, clicking like and subscribing, getting involved in Twitter at Narrations, and supporting the channel through, the join button down below or Patreon. I can never express the difference you guys make. Thank you so much. You started my 2022 on an absolute high. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Much love.
Wake up, get up, stretch my legs, eat some breakfast, milk and eggs, brush my teeth up, wash my face, throw my clothes on, start my day. Wake up, I can smell the smoke from the bacon. Let's go,